Someone's Googling your business right now, and the first thing they're seeing isn't your website. It's a Reddit thread that's 2 years old or a negative Trustpilot review that was left by someone you never even spoke to or closed as a client. Not only is that frustrating, but it's also costing you money. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what you can do to push down those negative results on page 1 and take back control of that first page. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Jordan. I want to cover today how to push down negative results in the first page of Google, also known as content suppression. And so I'm going to break down a couple of steps that you can take to do this yourself, and then even kind of go further and share with you what we do to help our clients regain control of that first page by suppressing content. So let's start off by asking the question, why negative results rank so well? Here's the thing most people don't understand. Reddit, Trustpilot, Yelp, these aren't just your normal everyday websites. They're some of the most authoritative domains on the internet, and Google trusts them. That's why when someone leaves a negative review about you or your business or starts some sort of Reddit thread about you, it doesn't just sit there quietly, it ranks, and oftentimes even above your own website or your controlled assets. High authority domain plus relative content almost automatically equals page 1 results. Now, the good news is the same logic actually works in your favor if you know how to use it. And the biggest mistake that people are actually making today is doing absolutely nothing. And I get it. It feels uncomfortable to draw more attention to something you'd rather people not see at all. So most business owners just hope it goes away. They hope for the best. They're sitting and praying that it just somehow disappears from page 1 when that's not the case and never will be the case. Negative content doesn't just age out of Google or magically disappear. In fact, it just sits there and accumulates more clicks, more traffic, more engagement, making it much more harder to suppress or even remove. So the worst thing you can do for your reputation is do absolutely nothing. And so before you start trying to push anything down, you need to first clean up what you already control or own. And the fastest win here is going to be Trustpilot. A lot of business owners don't actually realize that any sort of fake, defamatory, or false reviews left on Trustpilot can actually be disputed and removed. So if someone left a review that has no real experience, contains false information, or even violates Trustpilot's policies and guidelines, you actually have grounds to challenge it. And to share an example of exactly that, I'm going to pull up a Trustpilot profile here, and I'm blurring out the client name here to keep them anonymous per their request in the NDA we signed. But just so you have an idea, this client was at 3.7 or 3.8, I believe, and we were able to successfully challenge, dispute, and remove multiple negative Trustpilot reviews from this profile. Not only were we successful in being able to challenge, dispute, and remove these Trustpilot reviews, but we were also able to get them from, like I said, the 3.8 up to our 4.8, which is a massive, massive improvement. And just so you guys know, I'm not pulling numbers out of my thin air. We actually published a case study on this on our LinkedIn channel, and I'll drop that link in the description box below so you can read it and see for yourself. But just to go back to this case, this Trustpilot profile was ranking in the top 3 spots for their branded searches. And it was killing conversions. It was hurting sales. It was getting brought up on almost every sales call, and they really just couldn't get over this hurdle. Once we came in, we challenged, disputed, and removed all of the negative, false, and harmful reviews that were left by people that A, either never even went through the program, B, never even had a real experience with the client, or C, sharing personal information, things that violate Trustpilot's guidelines and policies. So just getting even 1 or 2 negative reviews removed from Trustpilot can make a significant impact on your overall Trustpilot score. And that's a tangible, fast win that doesn't require months and months of work. So start there before you do anything else. Now, how does suppression actually work? So once you've cleaned up what you can control, the real work begins. In a nutshell, suppression is about flooding Google's page 1 with enough positive content that you own until the negative results don't have any room to breathe or even appear on page 1. So first, you're going to want to optimize all of your controlled assets. And I've talked about this in previous videos, so go check those out if you're curious on exactly what I'm talking about here. But it's going to be your website, your LinkedIn, YouTube channel, Facebook page, all of those controlled assets that you currently appear on and are active on. Every single one needs to tell the same story, same language, same bio, same narrative, because Google's going to be cross-referencing all of that. When it sees a consistent narrative across all those platforms, it's going to start to favor that over any sort of isolated negative reviews or Reddit threads, things like that. Second, get active on your social media accounts. If you have social media accounts, but you're not utilizing them, sharing testimonials, sharing reviews, case studies, things like that. I'd encourage you to start that today and start posting a couple of times a week. These platforms already have enough authority, and when Google sees that you're leveraging them and staying active and actually publishing content across them, it's going to start favoring them and then potentially rank them on page 1. Thirdly, you're going to want to publish beyond your active owned social medias. That's going to be things like articles, directories, and press coverage. And I also talked about that in another video. Go give that a watch if you haven't. The more real estate you own on page 1, the less room there is for any negativity to stay visible on page 1. And now, what does a realistic timeline actually look like here for suppression particularly? What we see with our active clients and the ongoing ORM projects that we're currently working on, the first signs of movement are typically going to be at that 45-day mark or even into the 60-day mark. So just shy of 2 months. You might see a social profile climb a couple of spots on that page 1, or maybe there were no social profiles on page 1 and they've suddenly started to appear at position 6, 7, 8, or even 9. You might even see an optimized directory that's now ranking because you recently built that out and the narrative, the language used is identical across all those platforms. And then you might even see a negative review that was once sitting at position 3 slowly slip down to position 5, 6, and even onward. And so these are small shifts, but they are measurable, and it's something you can keep track of to actually see if your suppression strategy is working or not. And then from that 90-day mark and onward is where you start to see lasting results, more sustainable results that are going to be much more stable over time versus compared to the 45-day mark, the 60-day mark. Those can be a little bit unstable, but you will start to see some movement at that point. And then usually by around the 6-month mark for most of our clients, not all, we're starting to see some completely different results on that page 1 than what things had been starting all the way back from day 1. And so that's going to be a quick overview of how to suppress negative content on page 1. So just remember that the first step is going to be to clean up what you already control, and then optimizing everything you own and consistently building content that takes back your control on page 1. It takes time, but it does work. It is effective, and I've seen it time and time again with clients that come to us and need us to suppress content off that first page, whether it's a negative review, some blog that was written a couple of years ago, things like that. We've seen that this works. And so if you want to see exactly what's ranking for you or your business, I'll drop a link in the description box. Go ahead and click that, and we can even lay out the exact suppression strategy for you based on what that page 1 already looks like. And so that's everything I got for you guys. Let me know what you thought of this video. If you liked it, drop a comment, leave a like, subscribe to our page, all of that jazz, and I'll see you in the next video.